The wind was cold, even under the weak sun that barely touched the ground of the ruined city. Dust blew between the cracks of the metal buildings. And hungry creatures roamed the streets like shadows. But there she stood barefoot, trembling eyes wide with fear and hunger. Her skin was pale blue, not from her species, but from starvation. Her clothes were not even real clothes, just scraps stitched together. Barely enough to cover her, she stood at the edge of a food stall, eyes fixed on a steaming bowl of broth. Her stomach growled loud enough that even the vendor heard it. "Back off if you can't pay." The vendor grunted, waving a greasy hand. The girl didn't answer. She only stepped a little closer, her lips dry, her arms hugging her thin body. The smell of food was torture, like a cruel joke played by the world. A group of customers laughed at her from nearby, throwing a crumb of bread on the ground. "Here, animal," one of them said, mocking her. She didn't move toward it, even though she hadn't eaten in days. The vendor leaned forward, annoyed. "Didn't you hear me? No credits, no food," he barked again. She looked up at him with eyes that didn't beg anymore. They had given up, but her voice still whispered, almost like a breath, "All I have are my clothes." Then, slowly, her shaking hands moved to pull her top from her shoulders. She wasn't doing it out of shame or seduction. She was doing it because she didn't want to die. Gasps and laughter rose from the crowd. One man even pulled out his data recorder, ready to film her misery. But before her cloth could fall completely, a firm hand grabbed her wrist. A human hand. "Stop." The voice said, not loud, but full of command. The girl froze, her eyes locking onto the face of a stranger. He was tall, dressed in rough earth clothing, with dust on his boots and calm in his eyes. The human looked at the vendor, then at the bowl of broth. "How much?" he asked. The vendor squinted, unsure how to respond. "She's got nothing." "And I'm not a charity," he said. The human took out a small chip, placed it on the counter, and grabbed the bowl. Then he knelt and handed it to the girl without saying a word. She stared at it like it was made of gold. Slowly, with trembling hands, she took it and drank, her eyes watering not from the heat, but from something deeper. The food burned her mouth, but she didn't stop. She finished it so fast that a drop ran down her chin, and she licked it off like it was life itself. The crowd was silent now, unsure how to react. Someone muttered, "Freak," and walked away. Another shook his head and laughed nervously, but the human didn't look at anyone else, only at her. "When did you last eat?" he asked gently. She didn't answer, she just looked down, her hands clinging to the empty bowl as if afraid it would vanish. He took off his coat, worn and patched, and wrapped it around her shoulders. She flinched at first, not used to being touched kindly. Then she clutched the coat like it was the warmest thing in the universe. "You can't save every stray," the vendor said mockingly. The human turned his head slightly. "Maybe not," he replied, "but maybe I can save one." He gently took the girl's arm and led her away from the stall. She didn't resist, her feet dragging behind as if she was dreaming. People stared, whispered, and some even recorded the scene for their feeds. But he ignored all of them. He wasn't doing it for attention. He was doing it because no one else would. They walked through the broken streets, passing rusted machines and flickering neon signs. She didn't ask where they were going. She just followed, silent but no longer shivering. They reached a small shelter, nothing special, just metal walls and a heater that barely worked. But to her, it was paradise. He gave her water, clean clothes, and a place to sit. She looked at everything like it was a dream, and then she whispered again, almost like before, "Why?" The human sat down beside her, looked at the cracked ceiling, and answered, "Because nobody else did." The shelter was small, but to her, it felt like a palace. She sat on a worn-out cushion, still clutching the coat he had given her. The warmth inside it was strange, not just from the fabric, but from the kindness stitched into it. Her eyes scanned the room slowly, unsure if it was real. There was no metal color here, no shouting guards, no pushing or pulling, just silence, heat. And that human who still hadn't left her side. He moved quietly, making something on the small stove. The smell of warm herbs filled the air, soft and welcoming. She kept looking at him, afraid to blink, afraid he would disappear like everyone else did. "What's your name?" he asked suddenly, without turning. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I don't have one anymore," she whispered. He turned to face her, surprised but not judging. "No name at all?" he asked gently. She nodded slowly, her fingers gripping the coat tighter. "They took it from me," she said, voice barely a breath. "They said I didn't deserve one." The human didn't speak right away. He poured soup into a cracked bowl and handed it to her. "No one should live without a name," he said firmly. He looked at her for a long moment, then said, "How about Lyra?" She blinked, unsure what to say. No one had ever offered her a name before, only numbers, commands, or silence. "Lyra," she repeated, trying the sound on her tongue. A single tear slipped down her cheek. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll be Lyra." He smiled softly and sat down beside her. "My name's Daniel," he said. "Why did you help me?" she asked quietly. Daniel looked at his hands, thinking. "Because everyone else looked away," he said. "And I'm tired of pretending I don't see suffering." She stared into the bowl of soup, breathing in the steam. Her hands were still shaking as she lifted the spoon, but now it wasn't from cold or fear, it was from the feeling of being safe, just a little. "Where are you from?" Daniel asked gently. She hesitated before answering. "My planet doesn't exist anymore," she said. "Warships came, took our skies, and turned them into fire." Her voice broke, but she kept going. "I lost my mother, my sister, then my legs for a while. Then I got them back, but nothing else." Daniel said nothing, only listened. It was the first time she had spoken more than 5 words to anyone in months, maybe years. "I tried to get work," she continued, "but no one hires someone with a past like mine. And then I tried begging, but people just looked away." Her voice trembled again. "Until today." Daniel leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I saw you," he said softly. "Not just with my eyes, but with my heart. There are too many people suffering in this universe," he added. "But if each of us helped just one, maybe things would change." Lyra looked at him with wide eyes. She had never heard anyone speak like that before. "Not about her, not about anyone like her. You don't even know me," she said. "You don't know what I've done to survive." Daniel smiled sadly. "Maybe I don't need to," he said. "I only know who you are now, not what you were forced to become." The heater in the corner clicked, trying to keep up with the chill outside. Daniel stood up and pulled a blanket from the shelf, laying it over her shoulders. Lyra didn't stop. For once, she didn't flinch. "Do you have a place to go after this?" he asked. She shook her head. "No," she said. "Then stay here for a while," he offered. "I don't have much, but it's better than a cold street and cruel stairs." She looked at him, eyes full of questions and disbelief. "Why are you really helping me?" she asked again, voice sharper this time. Daniel turned to face her. Serious now, because once, he said slowly, "My sister was lost and alone like you, and no one helped her." His eyes dimmed for a second, as if reliving something painful. "I wasn't there," he added, "but if I can stop that from happening to someone else." He didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to. Silence filled the small room again, but it wasn't heavy, it was gentle. Like the hush before healing begins, Lyra leaned back against the wall, her stomach no longer in pain. Her heart still ached, but it was no longer empty. Someone had stayed, Someone had listened. Someone had given her more than food they had given her worth. For the first time in forever, she didn't feel invisible. And for the first time in forever, she closed her eyes without fear. Lyra woke up with a gasp, her eyes wide and breath heavy. She had dreamed of chains, against cold, rusted chains that wrapped around her neck. But when she looked around, she wasn't in a cage. She was inside Daniel's shelter, wrapped in his old blanket, warm for the first time in so long. She sat up slowly, blinking at the soft morning light seeping through the cracks. Daniel was by the small stove again, stirring something in a dented pot. The smell of herbs filled the air once more, calm and clean. When he noticed she was awake, he gave a small nod. Bad dream? He asked. She hesitated before answering. Yes, she whispered. But this time, I woke up somewhere safe. Daniel didn't say anything right away. He just handed her a cup of warm broth. She held it like a precious treasure, feeling the steam against her face. I want to thank you, she said softly. Not just for the food. Daniel looked curious. Then for what? He asked. For not looking away, she replied. Most people look at me like I'm garbage, like I chose to live in the dirt, but you saw me. Daniel leaned against the wall, arms crossed, listening quietly. Tell me everything, he said. Only if you're ready. Lyra stared at the floor, then at her hands. I was born in the mountain cities of Velmora, she began. My people were artists, builders, singers. But when the war came, everything changed. She closed her eyes for a moment before continuing. The invaders dropped fire from the sky. Our homes burned, our temples crumbled. I ran with my mother and sister, hiding in caves for weeks, drinking dirty water, eating roots. Her voice cracked as she added, one day I left the cave to find food. When I came back, they were gone. I searched for days, but found only ash and broken beads for my sister's hair. Daniel lowered his gaze, the pain in her words weighing heavy in the room. I was caught by slavers, she continued, her tone sharper now. They put me in chains, shaved my head, and sold me at a spaceport like I was meat. They gave me a number, not a name. From there, I was passed from one master to another, each one worse than the last. Daniel's fists clenched slightly, but he said nothing. They made me do things, say things, become something I never wanted to be, she whispered. And when I became too thin, too broken, they threw me out onto the streets like trash. That's when I started begging, and finally, I gave up. Yesterday, I tried to sell my body for soup. Her hands trembled as she added, and I hated myself more than I hated the hunger. Daniel sat down beside her, but he didn't interrupt. He let her speak, let her bleed the pain that had been locked inside for years. I thought I was just dirt, something the galaxy stepped on and ignored. But then, you stopped me. You didn't laugh. You didn't walk away. You wrapped me in your coat like I mattered. Daniel looked at her with gentle eyes. 'Cause you do matter, he said. You are not what they did to you. You're what you choose to become now. She looked down, her voice quiet. But what if I'm still broken inside? Daniel smiled. Then we fix the pieces together, he replied. That's what being human is about. We break, we heal, and we help others do the same. Lyra took a deep breath, the warmth of the soup and his words sinking into her bones. You. No, she said slowly. I don't remember the last time someone listened to me. Like, truly listened. Daniel chuckled softly. Well, I'm a good listener, he said. And I think your story is far from over. She looked at him with something new in her eyes. Hope. I don't have much, she said. No money, no papers, no place. But I want to try. Daniel nodded. That's more than enough, he said. You have the will, and I have a safe place. Just then, a knock came at the door. Both of them froze. No one ever visited this broken part of the city. Daniel stood slowly, his hand resting on a wrench hanging by the wall. He opened the door cautiously. A short robotic courier stood outside, blinking blue. Delivery for Daniel, it beeped. Daniel raised an eyebrow. I didn't order anything, he said. The bot dropped a sealed packet on the floor and rolled away. Daniel picked it up and scanned the label. His eyes narrowed. This shouldn't be here, he muttered. Lyra tilted her head. What is it? He opened the packet slowly, revealing a small, glowing disc. A symbol on it pulsed with faint light, an ancient mark, one Lyra had seen before, long ago. On the walls of her destroyed city, her eyes widened in fear. That's Velmaron Royal Seal, she whispered. Daniel looked at her sharply. You recognize it? She nodded, her voice shaky. It belonged to the High families, the rulers. My mother wore one just like it. Silence filled the room again, but this time it was heavy with something else, not pain, but mystery and danger. Asterisk, the disc pulsed. With slow blue light on the table, it looked small and harmless, but Lyra couldn't stop staring at it. It carried the same symbol carved into the walls of her childhood palace. She remembered the crest clearly, two moons cradling a single flame. Her mother used to wear it on her wrist. A sign of their family line. Now it was here, in the hands of a human who barely understood its weight. Where did you get this? Lyra asked in a whisper. Daniel shook his head, still confused. I didn't order anything, he replied. It just came. With no sender info, no trace. He flipped the disc over in his hand. It was warm, humming like it had a heartbeat of its own. Lyra stood up, still shaky, but stronger than before. I think someone knows I'm alive, she said. Daniel looked at her sharply, and they sent this. Maybe it's a message, she answered, or a warning. Daniel didn't like either option. He glanced at the door, then back at Lyra. We need answers, he said, real ones. And there's only one place in this city where secrets are sold openly. Lyra's eyes widened. You mean? The black market. Daniel nodded slowly. The market of chains. That name alone brought back a wave of memories for Lyra. Screaming cages, auction calls, and creatures barking bids for slaves. That's where she had once been sold naked, hungry, and silent. Her body tensed, but she nodded. If it means I'll know why they're hunting me again. I'll go. Hours later, the two of them walked through the shadows of the Undercity. The real city lay above, with its lights and music and distractions. But down here, everything was dark. Rusted and rotten, they passed creatures wrapped in cloaks, illegal weapons hidden under capes. The air smelled of oil, smoke, and something sickly sweet. The market of chains wasn't a place you entered. It was a place that swallowed you. Metal stairs led them down into an open space filled with cages, booths, and whispering figures. Slaves sat behind glass, while traders offered forbidden data and tech parts on flickering tables. And in the middle of it all stood a tall alien in crimson armor. His name was Gralt, an information broker and known trafficker. He didn't sell lies, but he charged a price for the truth. Daniel and Lyra approached carefully. Gralt turned his silver eyes toward them and smiled. Well, well, a human and a runaway, he hissed. What a curious pair. We need information, Daniel said firmly. And you need to speak politely, Gralt replied, flashing his sharp teeth. Daniel placed the glowing disc on the table. Gralt leaned closer, his smile fading. He touched the disc gently, and it lit up brighter for a moment. Where did you get this? He asked in a much quieter tone. It came to me, Daniel said. No sender, no message. Gralt's fingers twitched. This symbol. It belongs to the House of Viren, he said. A royal bloodline wiped out during the siege of Velmora. His eyes moved to Lyra, studying her And you. You carry their bone structure, he muttered. Lyra stepped back, her voice low. My mother was part of House Viren. Gralt's smile returned, but it was colder now. Then you shouldn't be walking around. Here, he said, many are still hunting what's left of that line. Why? Daniel asked. Gralt leaned in and whispered. Because the last child of Viren holds access to the Vault of Songs. A vault that contains secrets powerful enough to start or end wars. Lyra felt her knees weaken. She had heard her mother speak of the vault when she was young, hidden chamber beneath the capital that only their bloodline could open. But she thought it was just a story, a myth. Now it seemed real and deadly. Who sent this disc? Daniel asked again. Gralt tapped a hidden screen, showing a short video clip. A figure in a cloak handed the package to a courier drone. The video paused, showing just a hint of the sender's face. Lyra gasped. That's Saren, she whispered. My mother's advisor. He disappeared during the siege. Gralt raised an eyebrow. Then it seems your old world is waking up again. But be careful, little princess, he said. Voice mocking, not everyone who remembers you. Once you alive, Lyra looked down at the glowing disk, her hands trembling again. Everything she had run from, everything she had buried, was rising again. But this time, she wasn't alone. She turned to Daniel, eyes clear. Do you still want to help me? Daniel nodded without hesitation. More than ever, he replied. As they left the market, eyes followed them from every corner. Whispers began to travel faster than the shadows. The lost daughter of Velmora had returned, and not everyone was happy about it. Back inside the shelter, the world outside felt colder than before. The truth about the disc, the Vault of Songs, and her royal bloodline had changed everything. Lyra sat in silence, her hands gripping the edge of Daniel's table. For the first time in years, her past was more dangerous than her hunger. Not just a forgotten girl anymore, but a target. Daniel moved around the small room, closing the shutters, checking locks, and securing the door. We're not safe anymore, he said softly. Someone knows you're alive. And now they'll come looking. Lyra didn't argue. She felt it too in her bones, in her breath. In the sudden weight of memory, she stood slowly, stepping toward the cracked mirror on the wall. Her reflection stared back, thinner, bruised. Scared, but no longer empty, she pulled the loose collar of her shirt to the side and stared at her shoulder. A faint glow pulsed just under her skin, hidden by time and dust. I thought it faded, she whispered. What? Daniel asked, coming closer. She turned to him, her voice trembling. My mother once told me. Our blood carries a key, a brand placed at birth, invisible to others. But it glows when the vault calls. Daniel leaned in, eyes scanning the light on her skin. It wasn't a scar, not a tattoo. It moved gently, like ink inside her veins does. It hurt, he asked. She shook her head. No, she whispered, but it's getting brighter. Daniel looked thoughtful. Then, whatever this vault is, it's waking up. Lyra sat down on the edge of the bed, breathing slowly. I used to think all of this was gone, she said. My people, our stories, our home. But maybe the vault. Maybe it's the last piece of who I was, and the only way to stop what's coming. Daniel crouched beside her. Do you know where it is? She shook her head. My mother never told me, but she said the brand would guide me. Daniel stood, walking over to his desk and pulling out a scanner. Let me check something, he said. He waved the scanner over her shoulder, and the device blinked 3 times. Then a small map appeared on its screen, showing coordinates deep in the mountains. He whistled. Looks like your body just gave us the location. Lyra stared at the image, her heart pounding. That's far from where my home once stood, the caves. I hid there as a child. Daniel nodded. Then that's where we go next. But before they could speak again, a loud thud hit the wall outside. Daniel froze, his hand reaching for his wrench. Another thud followed, then footsteps, multiple ones. Circling the shelter, Lyra's eyes widened, panic rising again. "They found me," she whispered. Daniel grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the back door. "There's a tunnel under the floor," he said. "Used to be a smuggler route." He pushed aside a loose metal panel, revealing a narrow shaft leading downward. Lyra didn't hesitate. She climbed in first. Crawling through the darkness, Daniel followed, sealing the hatch behind them just before the door above burst open. Inside the tunnel, the air was damp and filled with the scent of rust and old secrets. Their breathing echoed through the narrow space. Lyra's fingers touched the glowing brand again, pulsed faster, like it was sensing something near. "Where does this tunnel go?" she asked softly. "To the outer edge of the city," Daniel replied. "From there, we head to the mountains, and we don't stop until we find the vault." They moved quickly, their steps careful but urgent behind them. Sounds echoed from above, shouts, metal boots, voices they didn't recognize. Lyra's legs ached, but she kept moving, because this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about finishing the story her mother died to protect. They finally reached a rusted grate, pushing. It opened into a dark alley. The city looked different, now dangerous. Hunted, unfamiliar. Daniel checked the street, then helped her climb out. They wrapped themselves in cloaks and moved like shadows, to ghosts escaping a world that wanted them gone. As they walked toward the transport station, Lyra touched her shoulder again. The glow now covered more of her skin lines, spreading like a map. "Daniel," she said softly, "I think it's leading me now." Daniel looked at her, serious but calm. "Then let it," he said. "We follow your light." And just like that, the poor girl who once begged for scraps was now the carrier of a secret the galaxy feared. The hidden brand beneath her skin was no longer a shame. It was a signal, and the journey had only just begun. The sun had not yet risen when Daniel and Lyra boarded the transport. The old skimmer shook and creaked as it climbed out of the city. Fog hugged the road ahead, and the mountains waited like silent giants in the distance. Lyra pulled her hood low over her face, her glowing brand now hidden beneath a fresh bandage. They sat in silence, watching the broken skyline fade behind them. But peace never lasted long for people with prices on their heads. Across the galaxy, the bounty had been posted, a blurry image of Lyra, marked with a glowing crest on her shoulder. Dead or alive, the reward was enough to tempt anyone with a ship and a gun. Daniel didn't tell Lyra that part yet. He had seen the message before they boarded, and he knew what it meant. People would come. Friends might turn into hunters, and strangers might become killers. Lyra finally broke the silence. "Do you think we'll reach the mountains before they find us?" Daniel gave her a half smile. "Maybe," he replied. "But if they do, they'll find I'm not easy to deal with." Lyra looked at him, a hint of warmth in her eyes. "You've risked everything for me," she said. "Why?" Daniel shrugged. "Because you're not just a story, Lyra," he said. "You're the one who's still fighting." The skimmer stopped in a quiet town just before the mountain path. It was a mining settlement, dusty streets, low buildings, and tired faces. Daniel guided her toward a safe house, owned by someone he used to know, an old human named Varla, who once smuggled fuel across battle lines. Varla opened the door with a sigh and a cigarette in her mouth. She squinted at Daniel, then burst into a dry laugh. "You look like trouble," she said. Daniel grinned. "Same to you," he replied. Then he leaned in and whispered, "We need help." And quiet, Varla let them in, her eyes lingering on Lyra's bandaged shoulder. "You brought something valuable, didn't you?" she muttered. Daniel only nodded. Varla showed them a small back room with 2 cots and an old heating unit. "You can rest here," she said. But be careful, miners talk fast, and this town is full of ears. As night fell, Lyra sat near the small window, watching the stars blink above the mountains. "I keep thinking someone will knock down that door," she whispered. Daniel sat beside her, sipping tea. "If they do," he said, "I'll be ready." But danger didn't always knock. Sometimes it sat beside you. And in the shadows of the hallway, Varla whispered into a hidden device. Her voice low. "She's here," she said. "The girl with the mark, double the bounty, if I keep them." Trapped, she ended the call and stared at her reflection in a cracked mirror. "I'm sorry, kid," she whispered to herself. "But this galaxy doesn't reward kindness." That night, Lyra couldn't sleep. Something in her chest felt wrong, tight, unsettled. She rose and walked through the hallway quietly. Passing the old kitchen, she heard a voice. Varla was gone, but her device was still lit, and on the screen was the bounty poster. With Lyra's face, her heart dropped. She rushed back to Daniel. Shaking him awake, "She betrayed us," she whispered. Daniel was up in seconds, grabbing his pack and pulling her toward the back door. But it was too late outside. Shadows were already moving. Blasters hummed, boots hit the ground, and voices shouted. "Don't run, girl!" someone called. Daniel and Lyra ducked through the alleyways. Dodging debris and crates, a shot hit the wall beside them, sparks flying. They ran toward the cliff path leading to the mountain trail. But more hunters were waiting near the rocks. Surrounded, Lyra turned, her hands raised. "Stop!" She cried. "I'll come quietly. Just let him go." Daniel stepped in front of her, shaking his head. "No," he said. "We stay together." Suddenly, the mark on her shoulder flared. Blinding blue light burst from her skin. The hunters staggered back, shielding their eyes. Some screamed, clutching their heads. The light wasn't just light, it was power, ancient, royal, and alive. Lyra collapsed to her knees. Gasping, Daniel grabbed her before she hit the ground. "What just happened?" He whispered. I don't know," she said, breathing hard. "It's like the vault protected us." The hunters fled, confused and shaken. Some dropped their weapons, others just ran. Whatever they had come for had turned into something they didn't understand. Daniel carried her back toward the cliff's edge. "We have to move now," he said. Lyra nodded weakly. "The vault is calling louder now," she whispered, "and it's angry," as they disappeared into the mountain fog. Varla watched from a distance, regret etched into her face. She had chosen gold over honor. But now she wasn't sure it had been worth it. The cold air of the mountains bit through their cloaks. But neither Lyra nor Daniel stopped. They moved in silence, following the pulses of light from the mark on her shoulder. Every few minutes, it glowed brighter, guiding them forward, the higher they climbed. The louder the wind became, and still, Lyra walked, not as the girl who once begged for soup but as someone chosen by history itself. Daniel kept checking behind them. No more bounty hunters, no more shouts, only fog and the crunch of snow under their boots. The betrayal by Varla had hurt. But what hurt Lyra more was that she wasn't even surprised. That kind of pain had become normal. But Daniel, he was still here, still walking beside her when he didn't have to. "You should have left me," she whispered once. He shook his head. "You're not a burden," he said. "You're a path I chose." At the peak of the mountain, they found the place. A stone gate covered in snow and vines, half buried in rock. Ancient alien runes glowed faintly across its surface. Lyra stepped closer, her shoulder burning with warmth. The light from her brand reached toward the stone like it recognized home. She placed her hand on the gate. A soft hum filled the air, deep and old, like a song sung across centuries. The stones shifted slowly, grinding open to reveal a staircase spiraling down into darkness. Daniel held out a small lantern. "Ready?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "I've never been more ready," she said. They stepped inside the vault. The temperature changed immediately warmer. Cleaner, the walls were smooth crystal, glowing in waves as Lyra walked deeper. Each step triggered light. Sound and memory. Holograms flickered to life her ancestors, their voices echoing in the language of her childhood. She paused, listening to them. Words of peace, wisdom, and sacrifice. This place wasn't a weapon. It was a library of truth. A living record of a people lost to war. At the heart of the vault, a pedestal waited. Upon it sat a sphere of pure light, floating gently in the air. As Lyra approached, the sphere responded, spinning faster, glowing brighter. She reached out hand the moment her fingers touched it. The brand on her skin expanded. It bloomed across her arm like a vine, glowing with symbols of her house. Suddenly, her old clothes were gone. The vault clothed her in something new, soft. Glowing armor wrapped in silver threads and memory. It wasn't heavy. It felt like home. She turned around, her eyes shining. Daniel stared in awe. "You look like a queen," he said. She smiled gently. "I'm not a queen," she said. "I'm a survivor," but just as peace settled around them. The vault lights flickered. An alert echoed through the chamber movement above. Lyra turned to the pedestal, and the sphere dropped into her hands. The vault had chosen Herb. It had also revealed its location to those watching. Daniel checked his scanner. 3 ships incoming, he said. Armed Lyra stood tall, holding the sphere to her chest. "I won't run this time," she said. Daniel smiled. "Then I won't either," as they stepped back outside. The wind was even fiercer than before. Enemy ships circled above the cliffs. Troops began to land, weapons raised. Lyra and Daniel stood alone at the edge of the ancient path. And yet, they didn't look afraid. The first commander stepped forward, helmet reflecting the clouds. "Give us the girl and the vault key," he shouted. "You're outnumbered." Lyra stepped forward, armor glowing, voice calm. "You've hunted me, starved me, humiliated me," she said. "But today, you see me for who I am. I carry the memory of a broken people. I am the daughter of fire and voice." The light from the sphere rose into the sky. A shockwave burst across the mountain, and every soldier fell to their knees, not from force, but from something older, something sacred. The vault didn't destroy them. It showed them the truth. Holograms surrounded them, images of the war. The burning cities, the betrayal of the Velmaron people. Soldiers lowered their weapons, shame on their faces. One by one, the ships left. No one spoke. They just knew. They had been on the wrong side of history. Daniel looked at her, his voice full of awe. "You didn't have to fight. You made them see." Lyra turned to him, tired but proud. "I've spent my whole life being nothing," she said. "But now I carry a legacy, and I'm not alone." They returned to the shelter weeks later. The bounty was gone, the price lifted. People now whispered her name with respect. Lyra walked through the city no longer in rags. She wore her armor of truth, her voice, her name. Children pointed and smiled. Some even ran to hug her. She bent down, smiling softly. "Don't be afraid to speak," she told one of them. "Even when the world tells you to be silent," as she stood beside Daniel, watching the stars rise once more, she whispered, "All I had were my clothes." He looked at her, smiling, but now, she continued, "I wear hope."